And the talk post lunch is a little heavy to drag with, but just bear with me for half an hour or maybe less than that. So the talk that would be delivering here is on code channels in wireless. Basically, it's about how one can actually ship certain data not in the payload field but some other field. And let's begin. So we are actually me, Rishikesh, and my co-author Amrita. Somehow she couldn't travel because of a visa issue. So we've been trying to understand wireless communications in detail for like almost 4 years. We have been trying to understand many of the questions in wireless communications in a different way, different approaches. So it was actually in NullCon 2014 we have delivered a talk on rogue access point detection from client's perspective, that we came to reach another question where we've been trying answer like, okay, there are rogue access points, there are different attacks happening in the IEEE 2.11 standard and things like that. But then, is that only detection and prevention is the way to actually solve these all questions, or is there something else that we can come up with in order to address certain security issues in IEEE 2.11? Well, before we begin, this whole discussion would be going around IEEE 802.11 specific to open wireless networks. We won't be dealing with any encryption or something like that here. So these are open wireless networks, max to max, some captive portal that may come in picture. So while answering that particular question, where is there any way around to come up with some new preventive measure apart from like wireless sensors or maybe wireless IDS or something like that, what else can be done? So we came to know, like, what if we try to ship certain data into frames where usually data is not sitting. So this is where this whole concept started taking place, or rather started incepting, I would say. So yes, Amrita, she is a test analyst having more than 10 years of experience. I am a security analyst and part-time researcher. So that is much on to the introduction part. So yes, by the time we started solving this question, this was our state of mind, cluttered. There were like plethora of things, n number of layers, different timing paradigms and whatnot. But assumptions, there are many presumptions as well. So like something that's kept from disclosing, yes, indeed. There are always otherwise usages of things that purposely were not mentioned into the standard documentations. And so is the wireless, the Holy .11 or maybe IEEE 802.11. So some characters, very basics, if somebody is not aware. Access point, the device which will actually avail a network connectivity to hosts, and hosts are nothing but the stations which would be actually consuming such network connectivity and will be doing some productive or unproductive use of that connectivity. So back to the basics. Introduction, I think we've done a little bit. So here it is. We all here sitting at least have some understanding about IEEE 802.11 and the misuse that's always been done about around IEEE 802.11. So what do we really need to prove it again and again? Like, since like 1998 we've been attacking IEEE 802.11 and still is the state of this whole wireless network scenario. Well, okay, fine. So what can be a bullet line for this particular blame, for that matter we can say? A hole in the network perimeter, open wireless networks, webs, bad configs, default username passwords and whatnot. Loose link in the client security, yes. Offensive rogue access points, eavesdropping in socially dense areas, connectivity mess-ups, yes. When we say connectivity mess-ups, it would only be known to attacker, otherwise it's a seamless experience for rest of the victims. So who the victims are? I know a couple of boring slides these are. Courtesy to omnipresence and ease of access to wireless, mobile phones, cameras, printers, gaming consoles, laptops, desktops, majority of gadgets nowadays we are using, and thanks to IoT, many more things and extended surface to attack. All in all, many victims attacking exploitation. So any or rather majority of IEEE 802.11 complying devices have certain modes of operation. Out of that, first is managed mode. That is more of our wireless network interface card, which usually operates in. Ad hoc mode, which is kind of maybe a patch driver or maybe some edited stack present into IEEE 802.11 protocol stack, and we are using it for some ad hoc purpose for that matter. Master acts as an access point. And monitor mode, one of very favorite mode of an attacker for that matter, allows monitoring and injecting traffic on various channels, synonymous to promiscuous mode in case of wired network. So covert communications. By book, in computer security, a covert channel is a type of computer security attack that creates a capability to transfer information objects between processes that are not supposed to be allowed to communicate by the computer security policy. I know, pretty heavy definition. There have always been ways to basically smuggle your data using various layers in the ISO-OSI model. Well, to mention here, actually, one of my paper got declined in Positive Hack Days, but their review was really fantastic. This particular line has actually struck to me after that review. Like, why it has only supposed to be a specific layer? Why cannot be there are more than one layer on which we can ship covert data, or rather we can initiate covert channel? So yes, thanks to PhD for that. So we've been focusing on some of the aspects in data link layer. This is where we have actually zeroed down on data link layer, and we started focusing on, yes, this could be the prospective region we can actually explore in order to initiate our covert channel. And that too specifically on beacons and probes. Why, we would come to know in some time. So some basics: .11 frame types, management frames, control frames, data frames. Forget about control frames from data frames, because we would be only dealing here in this talk about management frames, and that too about only these three frames which are highlighted in red, that is probe request, response, and beacon frame. So while doing this all, we've taken help of a particular tool called Scapy. So Scapy is a packet manipulation tool, a program, allows forging and crafting packets in frames, supports various protocols. For Scapy, wireless frames are just a set of layers and sublayers. How? We will come to know soon. So layers in Scapy. So this is how actually Scapy understands our wireless frame. So the first layer in the wireless frame for Scapy is radio tap. Then the other layer is .11. Then the third layer is .11 beacon or probe request or response, and then succeeding with .11 ELT. ELT stands for information elements. So yeah, this was like some convinced thought of mine after like 6 months. So beacon frame, oh, seems this is fine. We can actually inject these things in more of an OOP way or things like that. So basically it's a radio tap layer, as we have said, as we have spoken already. Then there is a .11 address 1, which is like a broadcast address here. Address 2 is nothing but your BSS ID. Address 3 is again a BSS ID. And then .11 beacon, that actually starts with cap. cap equal to 0x2104. Cap is nothing but a field which is usually a capability information, deals with lot of hardware and network related information for that particular network interface card, and same about wireless access card as well. Sorry, wireless access point as well. My apologies for typo. And yes, the other thing is like .11 ELT ID equal to 0. Here ID is nothing but a field which will be telling you like which kind of information element that you are trying to address here. So in case it is ID is 0, then that particular information element is SSID. So the info field will actually populate that particular information about that ID. So here it is demo. So that is SSID that I have forged here, or for that matter shoved here. So theoretically this is how beacon frame looks like. A lot of header and bytes related information, timestamp, frame control, and many things. In functional context, this is what beacon frame does. So assume that particular rolling circle, or rather the growing circle, is a beacon frame. As soon as it reaches to a particular station, it gives that particular station intelligence that yes, there is particular access point present into the local radio periphery. So yes, there's a lot of information stuffs inside the wireless frames, in our context beacon and probe. Edit the fields which have better length in order to ship data. Yes, that is what we'll be doing, and soon we'll be seeing like what exactly is the significance of that particular statement. Interesting elements: SSID, DSSet, TIM, rates, ES rates, TPC rates, responses, sorry, TPC requests and responses, country, and etc. There are like plethora of such elements available. So to sail through certain elements, I have referred to IEEE 802.11 standard document where these elements are written. So basically in our SCAPI context, if we see here, the ID field here represents same ID here as well. So the element ID is nothing but the ID field in case of SCAPI .11 ELT context. Fine. And the length, if you see, like here we have SSID, it's got like 34 octets, supported rates 10 octets, TIM 256 octets. TIM stands for traffic indication map. So like that, there are many such elements available. So couple of them we have picked up and tried understand like if they really work the way we want it to. Can we show in for this particular thing, these particular frames, because they do not require any authentication, neither they require any association with access point to broadcast themselves, to air themselves. Being broadcast, there's no need to zero down on host selection. So this would be like kind of a broadcast attack. We need not zero down on a specific user. Okay, this is what I'm trying, this is a particular user I'm trying to attack. No, not needed. We can actually target many people at a time. So yes, that reduces the pain a bit. Presence of these frames in multitude in local wireless periphery is a common phenomena. Yes. So by design, these frames are meant to be available in abundance into the local radio periphery. So that actually gives us a rather an attacker an edge to actually stay low onto suspicion. Yes. So again, the multitude will always facilitate the larger chunk of data to ship. Yes, this particular thing, the multitude of larger chunk of data, we still are working on this. But yes, we are able to ship a data, but we are still not being able to sequence it in the proper way because of some lossy channels for that matter. So using this, outbreak of malware, pretty much a possibility. Some field allows pushing more than 250 bytes of data in a single frame. Edit to this particular statement. Now it could be more than like 500 or maybe like 750 bytes of data in the single frame. We will show you how. Fine. So 250 bytes are quite enough for malicious payload, yes. Those who are exploit writers here, they understand importance of 250 bytes. So for representation perspective, we have picked up a particular information element, and that is TIM, that is traffic indication map. So why specifically TIM? It is because of this was the first element, information element, which allowed us shipping 250 bytes of data in some non-payload field. And yes, it was pretty easy to fabricate the frame in Scapy using this particular information element. Those were like days when I was not much. Find a way to actually land our shellcode and make it executable directly onto the remote box, for that matter. So yes, demo. I hope it's. Four-liner or five-liner scripts. I'll show you the scripts as well. They are pretty easy to understand. So here. 100 bytes of data or like 750 bytes of data in one particular frame. So like we are yet to study rest of the elements or other information elements for that matter, which will actually allow us shipping like little larger chunk of data into the same single frame for that matter. So you can see the volume has been increased of the string. So some issues about this approach. There are certain issues that we are still trying to rectify, we can say. So deep packet inspection firewalls will still raise an alarm if they see like there are certain different information elements which are being populated with some suspicious data. Yes, reordering the data at receiver end could be an issue should sequencing is not taken care of before showing in the data. Now the second part of this particular fact is like though we take care of sequence into the transmitter end, we still are feeling we still are facing problems by the time we receive the data. There is still a problem with reordering that data because there are certain frames which are getting dropped because of some noisy channel and all. So that is giving us no clue like how to again reorder this whole chunk of information in a single line for that matter. But yes, this particular timing parameter in Scapy there is particular command sendp which actually allows you sending data with specific timing interval. So we can use this particular timing interval in order to ship the data and in sequence. But the same problem arrives like how to acknowledge and how to retransmit that data. So there is another way that we have been able to actually come up with is like retransmit that whole chunk of data after like 0.2 milliseconds or something like that, but that will only result in a lot of garbage at receiver end. But yes, honestly we are yet to find an exhaustive solution to this particular question as of now. So no retrieval of lost frames so far. Yes, so work in progress, that just I have told you like there are things we are trying to understand how a lost frame can be retrieved. So yes, apart from that there are many information elements we are yet to test. Fields pertaining timing parameters may be of help but yet to be tested though. Now why timing parameters would come in picture, specifically like PS pole frames or frames which are more concerned about timing, which are like timing sensitive frames. So they can actually be used in order to write in a lot of data in a different way. Like instead of that particular ID again in timing field, we can use some string to be shoved in there or maybe a hexadecimal representative of that string and can ship the data. So we are still trying to understand that thing in detail. Yes, synchronized file transfer. This is something we are halfway into. As I have told, like yes, using that particular 0.2 milliseconds delay into the frame burst, we can actually reorder the data. But as I've told, like it's only that lost frames that we are yet to work upon. So conclusion, we have used broadcast frames as a mean of running covert channels. The approach we have proposed is still in development. getting visa and flying was like a real dream kind of thing for me, but it's just because of him that happened. Uh, Vivek Ramchandran for his fantastic literature on wireless, basic security, scripting, and everything. And yes, DEF CON 24 Wireless Village for giving me an opportunity to share what I've learned with everybody around here. Thank you so very much. If you have any question, I'll try to answer that.
So have you been setting these with like beacon frames for non-existent networks, or have you tried actually setting that information into the frame of a legitimate on a legitimate SSID on a legitimate wireless network? And if you have, has it had any impact on the payload of the legitimate payload of the packet? So has it had any impact on the data in a packet? You modifying the frame that much? Has it thrown off anything or messed up any type of access points or any type of communication?
There was no effect.
No effect. So you can carry, you're saying you can carry this across a legitimate wireless network and hide your data in the frame, and no one will be none the wiser.
No worry. It smoothly escapes the host kernel as well as it gets properly interpreted by the victim kernel as well. Any other question? Yes.
Why is it that you did not use an example where encryption is involved? Because it's still a broadcast, right? And it's still. Can you give me a quickly the reason?
Honestly, I'm yet to excel into those all mathematical algorithms.
Okay.
So is the reason I haven't touched encryption.
Sure. Okay.
Yes. Any question anymore? All right. Thank you everybody for being such a nice audience, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to deliver my talk. Thank you.